Hello YouTube, it is I, the legend, the myth, Mr. Farhan. Wait, hold on. If I was a myth, would you really see me in this video? I come today to discuss the conclusion of The Walking Dead. I bring up Legendary because the show served as a pinnacle for the survival zombie thriller genre. At least until the end of The Last of Us. We'll see. It fittingly premiered on Halloween 2010 and stayed in our lives for the best part of a decade. Before I delve into the show more internally, it's important to give shoutouts to any show to have such a long tenure in today's entertainment industry. Back in the good old days, many shows would have 16 plus episode seasons that would run for years on a television network. They could sustain the production of these shows due to getting considerable profit through advertising. Yep, that really happened. However, if you're like me, who's lived under the shell for the last few years due to failed romantic conquests, you might not realize that streaming companies such as Netflix and Prime have asserted their dominance over the market. Just like me whenever I see one of the boys bend over to pick something up. These companies rely on subscription packages that attempt to grab the interest of as many people as possible. That's why it is a need to possess a diverse collection of shows, catered to different groups and not focus on just one specific show. The cons of this strategy can be seen for shows like Inside Job, which has steadily grown a fandom, but the anticipated second season was cancelled prematurely, for the likely reason that the budget could be catered for a different or new show entirely. When you think of current long-running shows, you think of adult animated comedies, The Simpsons or Family Guy. Other shows like Supernatural have also exceeded expectations and have become a cultural phenomenon. However, it's wrong to compare these shows with The Walking Dead. Just think about this. The absolute variety of ideas and concepts that can be employed in animated shows. There's no limit. Family Guy can depict Kanye West watching Kim K smash two black gentlemen, while Kylie films the whole interaction and puts it on her OnlyFans.
And what can I do for you four fine black gentlemen today?
Not gonna lie, that would be a great episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. The next week's episode would just be Brian shitting on Peter's face whilst he's sleeping, but everyone blames Meg for some reason. The show can afford to do this and remain popular because it's just meant to be a non-linear narrative about a dysfunctional American family. Of course, non-linear structure is not a guarantee for long-term success. Just look at Rick and Morty. They try to go down this same path, even though they showed how good of a show they can be when they are serialized. The evil Morty plot and all that. Now, I don't know anything about Supernatural, but just based on my high intellect, the show's premise could be very broad. The protagonist could fall in love with a zombie and vampire hybrid at a local Starbucks, and that could be Supernatural. Or I don't know, delving into the psyche of the man that committed One Man, One Jar, that is also Supernatural. Anyways, I have digressed massively. The point of all that is just to say that The Walking Dead has a much more set-in-stone concept, and deviation from that is limited. As you probably know, The Walking Dead is adapted from the comics of the same name by Robert Kirkman, and he had to actually lie to his publishing company, Image Comics. They believed that his comics would be unsuccessful without a certain hook or quirk. So Kirkman manifested a lie about the zombies being influenced by aliens, and the rest is history. It's kind of BS, to be honest. I told the government about me being an illegal alien, and instead of admiring my honesty, they sent me to a detention center for half my life. The audacity. So what's the worry about The Walking Dead being just another cliche zombie title Warranted? Let's find out. In the very first moment of the show, we are introduced to my man Rick scoping out what seems like an abandoned car yard. He witnesses a few dead bodies running about, but Rick's reaction is just the best. Has the same energy as a guy dreading the thought of spending a Saturday afternoon with his in-laws.
When do you guys think you're gonna die?
Later on, Rick encounters a small girl and tells her not to be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
He subsequently becomes afraid when he notices her face and proceeds to shoot her. Now, what if the girl was just pulling off a very successful zombie cosplay? In the aftermath of Rick waking up, we begin seeing the signs of a new world. The clock stops working, the waiting room shows signs of struggle, and most importantly, the atmosphere is so dark and isolated. We, the audience, share the level of confusion and fear that Rick is experiencing because, like him, a lack of awareness on the state of the world is a truly terrifying thought. Imagine waking up the next day and realizing you're never going to have another Big Mac for the rest of your life. At that point, I'm just throwing myself to the zombies. I don't even give a. To be honest, the fear of the unknown is often void in future seasons of The Walking Dead. It makes sense to a certain degree because when people are in a group, there's a certain level of safety and direction. Afterwards, Rick meets a friendly bloke called Morgan and his son, ultimately learning that the world has been riddled with zombies called walkers. They part ways soon afterwards with Morgan warning Rick to be careful when multiple walkers are around because they'll get his ass or something. What a great guy. I hope nothing ever happens to his family.
All around me are familiar faces.
Towards the end of the episode, Rick finds himself trapped underneath a dormant tank and surrounded by a ravenous pack of walkers. Realizing his impending doom and fearing the repercussions of living in this world for 11 seasons, he commits suicide.
Lori, Carl, I'm sorry.
From then on, we meet a variety of important characters like Daryl, Carol, and Glenn, all of them having their own unique stories. Daryl being influenced and looking up to his antagonistic brother, Carol dealing with her abusive husband, and Glenn just doing Glenn things.
This is great. This is good. Oh, nice. Oh, thank you.
European.
Yeah.
It's these interactions and relations between characters that have distinguished The Walking Dead from its thematic predecessors. Witnessing Rick having to deal with his best mate, Shane, after learning he's been doing the deed with his wife, is a mesmeric moment. It really does bring up the question, what is right and wrong in a world without laws and regulations? Under the assumption that Rick was dead, Shane found that having a relationship with Lori was beneficial for both parties. Now that Rick is back in the picture, Shane and Lori are apparently both dicks. So who's right and who's wrong? I'm kidding there. Throughout the series, Rick and his group have visited tons of places and met with a cast of characters, good and bad, ultimately trying to settle in a location that supported a future community. In the process of the struggle, many characters have either turned or outright died to progress the plot. The issue with this formula is that by losing a character, you're inevitably going to replace him or her with a new one, thereby using valuable screen time for a new background story and lengthy expositions about why the character pretty much exists. We can't enjoy these moments because we have no emotional attachments to these new characters, at least not straight away. It's like catching a Rattata on Route 1 of a Pokemon Nuzlocke and it dies on the exact same route. You're mad at your incompetence, but ultimately you won't really care. That's what I think is the biggest issue of The Walking Dead. By having this accumulate over a few seasons, the once thought-provoking interactions between a solidified cast is exchanged for a high amount of exposition that does not help move the story forward in a timely manner. Obviously, the removal of fan-favorite characters like Carl, Rick, and Glenn are a huge kick in the dick for veterans that have started the show from the very start, but it did not ruin the show by any means. There are many compelling moments and interesting story elements even after the removal of these characters. I quite enjoyed the moment when Negan apologized to Maggie for bashing her husband's head in. Hey, Maggie, I know what I did to your husband was unforgivable, but could you forgive me anyway? Even with all the qualms I have with the show, I will give credit where it's due. The last season was one of my favorites of the whole show. It can't replicate the tension and vibe of the earlier seasons, but it never tries to. It goes in a different direction entirely, and I can only applaud doing something so different successfully at such a late stage. All I can say is, it feels strange to let go of something after a decade of my life. So thank you, Walking Dead, for keeping my family and me occupied for such a long time. And yeah, damn, will I be this sentimental when I lose my virginity?